Dopamine Detox. You ever thought about doing one? If so, lock your phone and computer in the closet and go spend a month living in the forest. Or if you're feeling a little more reasonable, this video will break down a strategy I'm going to be using to reboot my motivation and productivity. For years, I've found myself in this cycle. I'll be doing really well, hitting the gym, eating right, crushing it at work. Then after a few months, it all crashes and I find myself in a rut. For the past 5 years, I've been a freelance filmmaker. If you've ever tried to work for yourself or do some sort of side hustle, then you know that maintaining motivation is a crucial part of success. A little over a month ago, I decided to quit as a freelance filmmaker and see what would happen if I went all in on YouTube for 6 months. All of this made me ask myself, what can I do to increase my motivation and productivity in a sustainable way? I don't want to be on this constant cycle of thrive, then crash and burn. I need to find a way to optimize my levels of motivation. With the goal of maintaining motivation and increasing productivity, I began to search the internet. I came across a concept I had never considered before, a dopamine detox. At first, I was skeptical. This seemed like some self-help nonsense. But after digging in, I began to think, this might just hold the answer to my problem. Could I actually use a dopamine detox to increase my motivation and productivity? To understand how this could be possible, it's important to first understand how dopamine itself works. For a long time, I thought dopamine came in hits. I thought it worked like this. You post on Instagram, you get a like, that triggers a hit or a release of dopamine. I thought of dopamine as a neurochemical reward. Apparently, it's more accurate to think of dopamine as the motivation to go pursue a reward. There's this famous experiment with 2 lab rats. Both of these lab rats had access to food at the press of a lever. One of the rats had its dopamine levels depleted, the other had normal levels of dopamine. What researchers found is that both rats still enjoyed eating food. Interestingly though, the rat that had its dopamine levels depleted lacked the motivation to actually go press the lever that released food. The rat that had normal levels of dopamine was very motivated to go press the lever. Since then, researchers have found that humans with low levels of motivation tend to have lower levels of dopamine as well. Dopamine helps with the motivation it takes to stay home and work on that side hustle instead of going out with friends. It provides the motivation to stick to that diet you've been on so that you can get those 6-pack abs you've been working towards all summer. From my understanding, here's how the dopamine cycle works. Imagine you're a runner and you sign up for a race. In this scenario, doing well in the race is the reward. In the training stage, you are on the pursuit part of the dopamine cycle. You are pursuing the reward. What's interesting is that when a runner finishes a race, they often struggle with motivation to get out and train. This discomfort or pain or lack of motivation is part of the dopamine cycle. During this part of the cycle, dopamine levels are quite a bit lower than they were during the pursuit part of the cycle. Hopefully, the runner will experience a craving to sign up for another race, and then they'll begin training again, and thus the cycle continues. Once I began to understand this cycle, it was really easy to spot in my own life. At the end of last year, I was working incredibly hard to finish the largest film project I had ever done. Every day I would wake up and spend 10 to 12 hours in deep work. It felt so good to complete the project and turn all of the deliverables into the client. It also felt amazing to cash that final check. Then for about a month after, I couldn't bring myself to do anything film related. In fact, I wasn't even sure if I liked making films anymore. Thankfully, the craving came back around and I began to pursue filmmaking again. It's great to experience the rewarding parts of life, like completing a huge film project or doing well in a race. If you can shift your mindset to seeing the pursuit as being the reward, you will ultimately begin to win more in life. Okay, all of this is great, but how can it actually be used to increase motivation and productivity in a sustainable way? The modern world we exist in comes with tons of amazing benefits, but it also comes with problems. Social media addiction, overconsumption of junk food, bingeable content, and the list goes on. The pleasure you may experience or the reward that you get from social media or junk food is not the problem. The problem is that in order to experience the reward, there's next to nothing that you have to go through to get there. You completely skip the pursuit part of the dopamine cycle and go straight to the reward. Here's all I have to do if I want to spend time on social media. 1, pick up my phone. 2, scan my face. 3, click a button. Effort level on the scale of 1 to 10, probably a 0.02. What if I want to eat an entire bag of Doritos? 1, walk to cabinet. 2, open cabinet. 3, grab Doritos. 4, open Doritos. Effort level on the scale of 1 to 10, I'd say 0.1 because I had to stand up. I can't eat these. I'm on a really strict diet. Jacob, do you want some Doritos? That's my brother Jacob. He can eat Doritos. According to Dr. Andrew Huberman, overindulgence in pleasure, or the reward part of the dopamine cycle, begins to mimic an opioid response.
So for people that aren't feeling motivated, the problem is they're not motivated, but they're getting just enough or excess sustenance. It becomes an opioid system. And if you think about the opioid drugs as opposed to dopaminergic drugs make people rabid for everything. There's that. And then there's the kind of opioid-like effects of constantly indulging oneself with social media or with video games or with food or with anything, to the point where it no longer evokes the motivation and craving.
As automation and tech improve and our access to pursuitless reward increases, successful people are going to be the ones that intentionally create barriers between themselves and pursuitless rewards. Success comes to people that learn to self-regulate. This is where a dopamine detox or dopamine fast can come into play. A dopamine detox can be thought of as a means of creating a barrier between oneself and instant reward. When setting out to design a dopamine detox, I had to sit down and create a list of the things I do where I get a reward without any pursuit. Unsurprisingly, most things on that list happen while I'm on my phone. Whenever I get bored, I don't even think about it. I just automatically pull out my phone and click on YouTube or Instagram and start scrolling. For me, this is a form of skipping the pursuit and going straight to the reward. When designing a dopamine detox, it's important to find what you specifically are trying to detox from. For me, it's mostly compulsive phone use and constant YouTube analytics checking. I decided I want to run a 30-day experiment where I self-regulate and measure my results. Here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to charge my phone in the kitchen at night. This means right before I go to bed and first thing in the morning, I won't be able to just compulsively grab my phone and check social media or look at my YouTube analytics. I'm going to delete the YouTube Studio app from my phone. This is the app where I can see all my YouTube data and growth. It's so easy to open up and spend way too much time on. I'm going to delete all other social media apps from my phone except for YouTube and YouTube Music. I'm not deleting these because I listen to a ton of educational content on YouTube while I'm working out or doing work around the house. So here's my rule for the YouTube app for the next 30 days. No browsing the homepage and no YouTube Shorts. But I can go on, search for a video, and watch it with the screen off while I work out or do things around the house. For the next 30 days, I'm going to keep my phone in black and white mode. The final rule I have is no checking YouTube analytics on my computer before 10 a.m. Here's how I'm going to track and measure my results. I have a plan to track whether I am picking up my phone out of boredom or if I'm picking it up because I have some need to use my phone. I don't know how well this will work, but I'm going to put a sticky note with a T-chart on my phone every day. On one side of the T-chart, I'll tally for boredom pickups, and on the other side, I'll tally for need pickups. For the next 30 days, I'll enter this data into a spreadsheet every day. 1, total daily screen time. 2, how many times I picked up my phone due to boredom. 3, how many times I picked up my phone for a specific need. 4, how motivated I felt on the scale of 1 to 10 for the day. And 5, how productive I felt on the scale of 1 to 10 for the day. In 30 days, I'll put out a video that goes over the results. If this video is over 30 days old, check it out here. If not, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. That's it for this one. YouTube thinks you'll find this video interesting. Let's see if they're right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.